Hi, I'm Eric Bergman. As a member of TV Toastmasters, I get to learn all about video production, running a TV show. Plus, I get to be on camera interviewing really fascinating Toastmasters who share their stories about their hobbies, their activities, and how they benefit our community. I also get to bring in members of my home Toastmasters club. We toasted in Lake Oswego. They get to tell their stories and build their communication skills. We're bringing a voice for District 7 Toastmasters here in Oregon and Southwest Washington to a TV audience. And TV Toastmasters is a great way to learn how to spread your message and share your stories with a wider audience.
Welcome back to TV Toastmasters. I'm Beth Genly, your host for this segment, and I'm also this year president of Toastmasters for Speaking Professionals, who meet on Tuesdays at noon in Lake Oswego on the second and fourth Tuesdays, and you are more than welcome to visit. I love that club. Today, I am very pleased to introduce you to my friend Tami Stackelhouse, who is a fibromyalgia coach and the author of 2 best-selling books. Tami, welcome to the show.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. Tami, you are a fibromyalgia coach, and when I first met you, I don't know when, 5 or 7 years ago, you were just a year or so into the diagnosis,
Right.
and I remember you always as a positive person, but then you were kind of struggling, and now you seem like you've got it figured out. So can you tell us a little bit about that journey?
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think we met. I had just been diagnosed the year before. I had found several things that had worked, but it was definitely still a work in progress. For me, I was diagnosed in 2006. I filed for disability in 2007, so it was really quite bad. And I had this moment where I sort of saw the trajectory of my life, and it wasn't the direction I wanted to go. It was definitely all downhill. And so I asked my doctor, what can we do about this? And she introduced me to a health coach in her office, and that was really the thing that turned everything around for me. You and I actually met probably about 6 months or so after I connected with my coach. So that's how quick the change was for me.
Wow, that's beautiful. So now you're a health coach for other people, and you actually train health coaches. So tell us a little bit more about that, why that's important to you.
Yeah, so like I said, it was the health coach that really helped me turn everything around, to really start implementing all those things my doctors have been telling me for 2 years to do, to change my diet and to pace myself better and be nicer to myself and just all the things. And the coach was really the person that helped me make that happen. And so I decided that, it made such a difference in my life that I wanted to become a coach. And then, of course, seeing all the changes in my clients' lives and how much better they felt, I had this idea in the back of my head that maybe, there needed to be more than just one of me, right? There's millions of fibromyalgia patients here in the U.S., and I can't help them all. And that was abundantly obvious after my first book came out, when I was getting calls from people and had to turn them away because I couldn't help them. So that's when I started really working with training more coaches.
So I understand that a physician has compared fibromyalgia coaching to diabetes coaching.
Right.
And that fascinates me because there's someone in my family who has fibromyalgia, and just like diabetes, you can't tell from the outside,
No.
at least on a good day. You can't tell at all. And on a bad day, you don't see him. He's in bed, right?
Right.
So, and yet it's a complex issue to manage. A lot of it is kind of weird compared to day to day if you haven't had to deal with this before. And so having someone that can say, oh, this is what's going on, and here's something you can try, it seems really important to me.
Yes, absolutely. And I think so many patients, by the time they get diagnosed with fibromyalgia, they've gone through several years, several doctors. On one hand, they're relieved they have a diagnosis, but on the other hand, there's this big sense of, now what? What do I do with this now that I have this label? And how do I manage this, and how do I still live my life? And unfortunately, most patients are being told, get used to it. This is your new normal. And, welcome welcome to your new life, which isn't so encouraging.
Right, exactly. And so there's that shift. It can, unlike diabetes, which is more likely to get diagnosed fairly quickly for most people, my experience has been that fibromyalgia takes a very long time to get diagnosed. It's getting better slowly. And so there's that relief. Okay, now I know what it is, but there's not one pill I can take and be done with it.
Right, right, very much. And I always tell people that treating fibromyalgia is sort of a shotgun approach, right? Like there's no one magic pill. And so it takes a lot of different things, but it can take time to find all those different things. And having a guide who understands that and can help guide you to those things shortcuts the process.
Right, and reminds you, I think you mentioned this already, but I've seen it as a nurse, I've seen it in my family life, that just having somebody who can say, oh yeah, remember I told you, or the doctor told you. Like, oh yeah, I do remember that now that you mention it. Yeah.
Yes, especially with fibro fog, like that's part of it. We don't remember, so we need that. Yes, absolutely.
So I understand there's a study that looked at health coaches and fibromyalgia.
Right. Yes, it was done. It was published in 2016. It was a pilot study. Just had a few people in it, which of course doesn't give us a lot of information, but it does encourage us at things to look at. And they found that the patients who worked with the coaches, they reduced the impact that their pain had on their lives by almost a half. It was 44%, so almost cut it in half. The severity of their pain went down by a third. So for somebody who's living in pain all the time, reducing your pain by a third is big. The other thing that they discovered that I love is that the number of doctor visits also went down. So a lot of us, have questions that we need to get answers. So, we go to the doctor. But what if you had a coach or somebody that you could ask those questions to, and you could implement things better? That then cuts down your costs, your healthcare costs.
Nice. And I think even more importantly, it adds to your quality of life, the number of days that you have when you can function and function well. And also, I imagine, I'm guessing here, but I imagine there's another piece. If I am in pain, I would like you to make it all go away, please, right now, right?
Yes.
And if what you're telling me is that I'm going to have 1/3 less pain, about half the time it's going to be 1/3 less. It's like, well, darn, that's not quite what I was hoping for. And so now I need somebody to help me, first of all, notice that there was a huge improvement.
Yeah.
And second of all, okay, if it's not going to be a total improvement, now what?
Right, exactly. I believe that you can absolutely live a great life even with fibromyalgia. And there's a lot of pieces to that, right? There's the literally feeling better, but there's also a lot of managing our own expectations for the body that we are living in now, and the expectations for what our treatments can do. And how do I redefine myself, right? As somebody who has fibromyalgia when maybe I can't do some of the things I used to do that gave me my identity. And having somebody who actually understands that, who's been through that themselves, is sometimes the best treatment.
Mm-hmm. Just having somebody who gets it, yeah.
Yeah.
And you talked a little bit before we turned the cameras on about planning. Talk a little bit about that. That was interesting.
Absolutely. So I think the biggest secret to feeling well with fibromyalgia is being able to plan. And for people who have fibromyalgia, that sometimes is a little counterintuitive because fibromyalgia is unpredictable, right? So what I like to do, like being here to be able to do this with you, is I have to think about what I have to do to prepare. So, making sure I don't use all my energy up beforehand. And then also planning recovery time and thinking of energy kind of like currency. There's only so much you have. You can't really go in debt without it being bad. And then being able to manage that and spend that energy on the things that are most important to you, which means you have to think about it. You have to plan. You can't just spend indiscriminately and then you've got something you want to do and you can't, right? So for me, it's all about planning.
I think for families too, to have some introduction to that kind of, so this is how it works. There's going to be some planning before and some planning afterward. So spontaneous things are less likely to work out well. And also, if we spend energy in this way, we can expect this kind of reaction later. I'm thinking you spend a certain amount of time with families doing that kind of discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely, because it is an illness that does affect the whole family. It's not just the individual person. I was diagnosed 6 months into being married, and that was interesting. You know, I mean, I was learning to live in a new body. My husband was learning to live with somebody that had different capabilities than he thought. You know, I mean, it definitely affects the whole family.
Gotcha. Well, it's really exciting to think of you out in the world training coaches to learn more about how to be supportive and to be there and to be informative in a correct way to people with this challenging illness. And you yourself are just an inspiration to me, Tami. Thanks. Because you do show up, you do get a lot done, you do move forward in really amazing ways, and it's an inspiration. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in our last minute or so, how can more information be found about your books and about the training and all of that?
Absolutely. So the best way to do that, easiest way to do that, is to go to takebackyourlifebook.com. That's the title of the book, in case you didn't catch that, takebackyourlifebook.com. You can get a free copy of the book, and then that will then lead you into everything else, into knowing more about working with a coach, if somebody's interested in that, or becoming a coach, if that's what they're interested in.
Takebackyourlifebook.com.
Yes, don't forget the book or you won't find me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your being here with us today and sharing all this information.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
You bet. I appreciate you being here with us tonight for this segment of TV Toastmasters.
Hello, my name's Christopher Taylor, and I'm with TV Toastmasters. My home group is Feedbackers out of Beaverton, Oregon. When I first joined Toastmasters, I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous, I was scared to speak in front of public, and I needed some help. Joining Toastmasters did a lot of things for me. First of all, it gave me the confidence to get a job. Second of all, I quickly climbed the ranks in my job. I got a speaking role with my company, and it didn't take long before I was giving executive briefings. I began managing the Berkshire Hathaway account, which is a Fortune 2 company, and I now give executive briefings to the C-level executives for the Berkshire Hathaway family. And I could not have done that without Toastmasters. Thank you.
Welcome once again to TV Toastmasters. My name is Philip Mandel. I'll be your host for this segment. And my guest this time around is Cindy Bahl. Cindy is the Director of Business Development and Amplfy events for Dirk's Counseling and Consulting. Cindy, welcome to TV Toastmasters.
Thank you, Phil.
Yeah, nice to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Dirk's, D-I-R-K-S-E. Tell us about Dirk's.
That's correct.
Okay.
Dirk's Counseling and Consulting was started by our president and CEO, Heidi Dirks Grau. And that was 21 years ago, almost 22 years ago now. She had a degree in vocational rehabilitation, had worked for Goodwill Industries, and decided to start her own business. And we're glad she did. In the 21 years, she's made a big difference in the lives of people with disabilities, and that is our specialty, connecting job seekers with disabilities to their employment goals. So we have licensed professional counselors on staff, those with master's degrees, to help with that process.
Interesting. So what types of disabilities, for example? Can you name some?
Sure. Good question.
Yeah.
Actually, all types of disabilities. Any job seeker that wants to work that has a qualified disability, which is really anything that impacts your daily living, can go to their local vocational rehabilitation office, which is a Department of Human Services, State of Oregon benefit, if you will, and they can seek help in reaching their career goals. And the counselor that they work with through the state may determine that they could use help from an outside agency. And that's what we are. We are actually a vendor or a contractor with the state of Oregon. And so they refer those job seekers to us, and they may have various disabilities, various career goals. Our job is to help them determine those things and help them meet those goals. So it could be someone with a hearing loss. It could be someone with blindness. It could be a stroke or cancer. Our specialty is working with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities, such as autism or Down syndrome.
Interesting.
Yes.
Tell you what, why don't you share a couple of success stories and change the names if you like, just to give our viewers a better idea of what it is that you folks do.
Sure. I think one of my favorite success stories was really my first success, if you will, in outreach to the community, which is really what I do and specialize in, and in helping a young lady reach her job goal. And I do believe it's all right I share her first name because we already have shared her story. It's been publicized. So due to my networking out in the community, and that's what I get to do, is get to know businesses and what their needs are. I was speaking at a group in our neighborhood, Raleigh Hills Business Association, and one of the businesses there, Jade River Healing Arts Center, approached me and said, I need some help. I am looking for a receptionist. Can you come and talk to me about my needs? And so I did. In that conversation, I heard her say, oh, and by the way, the receptionist not only needs to be able to answer the phones, greet the patients, call on insurance, but we need that person to do laundry, change the lovely flannel sheets on the beds. And we have a therapy dog, walk the dog, pick up after the dog, water the garden, and on and on. So I said, hey, have you ever thought about hiring somebody specifically for those tasks, doing the laundry, changing the beds, walking the dog, watering the plants? And she said, I've not, but I love the idea. Let's let the receptionist focus on the customer-facing task, the phones and the insurance billing. And so I already knew we had a client that would do great at those tasks because we do get to know our clients. And a young woman named Melissa, first job in the community. We are very privileged to work with the Beaverton Community Transition Program. And she is a young lady that is affected by autism and had just recently, in the last 3 years, begun even speaking. But now, is speaking and communicating, but needed our help in meeting an employer who would be understanding of her disability and appreciative of her skills. And so we introduced them. They had a meet and greet. She hired her, and I believe it's been 3 years now that she's been working there and has grown. They love her. She's part of their family. Their patients love her. So it's one of my favorite stories to share.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh. All right. So how about a little bit about your background? How did you get involved with Dirks? How long have you been there?
All right. Yes, I've been there 4.5 years now, and I actually met Heidi networking. I thinking back on all my careers, I've been working, getting a paycheck since I was 15 and a half. I think every single one of my jobs, I had my foot in the door because of somebody I knew or someone who knew me. And I met Heidi, and I was unemployed, had moved up here to the Portland area to be near my grandchildren, my daughter and son-in-law, and applying for jobs left and right, all of which I was very qualified for, but just wasn't getting anywhere because nobody knew me and I didn't know anyone. So after meeting Heidi, she said, I think you've got the skill set I'm looking for, which was the community engagement. I have a sales background, a marketing background, but what I really love is being out in the community representing an organization, and she had that vision for Dirks Counseling and Consulting, offered me the position, and the rest is history.
So very interesting. So representing an organization, but I get the impression that not any organization would do. It's got to be something with a cause or a purpose that you can really sink your claws into, so to speak.
You are absolutely right, Phil. I have learned that about myself over the years, having sold business forms and having represented a disaster and restoration company, which are good things. I'm not saying they're not, but for me, I do really enjoy and become very passionate about a cause. And I had previously worked for the American Cancer Society for 10 years. I was very passionate about that. Of course, we've all been touched by cancer in some way. So we can personalize that. And in meeting Heidi and learning about this field of disability employment, I've become very passionate about it as well. I think the smiles on the faces of people like Melissa, of the young adults especially that we work with, and helping them get their first job and earn their first paycheck, I've become very passionate about that, and very passionate about educating the community, educating employers about this untapped workforce of individuals that want to work and contribute.
And speaking of educating, I think that's the other half of your job title, and something to do with the word Amplfy.
Yes.
So just give us a minute or two on that.
All right.
What are Amplfy events?
Well, about a year and a half ago, we had an opportunity to apply for a grant through the state of Oregon to engage businesses, because we recognized, as I said, there just aren't enough employers out there in our own community here in the Portland metro area that are providing opportunities for people with disabilities, specifically intellectual and developmental disabilities. And so through this grant opportunity, we created Amplfy, which we now call Amplfy Initiatives, because there are 2 events that we put on each year. And we just had our 2nd annual Amplfy Success, hosted by our friends at Nike, the Abilities Network. And it is really meant to engage employers, to get them in a room, to inspire them, to empower them and motivate them to think about what they can do to include people with disabilities in their workforce, because everyone has an opportunity to do something and make a difference.
You know, I love the tagline of, I think it's a Dirks tagline, ability starts here. So someone may have a disability, but you're looking at, well, what is their ability despite having a disability? I think that's a beautiful mission.
Thank you, and that's exactly right.
Yeah. So if folks want to learn more, I think I got 2 websites that we want to talk about. One is for Dirks, and the other one is specific to Amplfy.
That's correct.
So the Dirks website is?
Dirks, DIRKSECC.com.
Okay, and the CC means?
Counseling and Consulting.
Counseling, so Dirks with an E,
.com,
Dirks
right.
Counseling and Consulting.
Right.
Okay, if they want to know more about that.
Yes, and AmplifySuccess.org is our Amplfy website.
Okay, and those conferences take place, one just took place on, today is October 23rd, 2018, so is it generally in October?
Yes.
And then the other event?
May 23rd, 2019.
So May and October will be the months to look for.
That's correct.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Great. Well, we hope more people can join and find out what Dirks and Amplfy Success is about.
Yes, thank you.
Cindy, thank you so much for being on TV Toastmasters with me today.
Thank you, Phil.
My guest today has been Cindy Bahl with Dirks Counseling and Consulting and Amplfy Success. We look forward to seeing you next time on TV Toastmasters. My name is Philip Mandel. We'll see you then.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Harmon. I'm a member of TV Toastmasters. In this club, we have an opportunity to practice speaking before the camera as well as running the equipment room. If you're interested in being interviewed on TV Toastmasters or becoming a member, please go to Toastmasters.org and look for us, or simply search for TV Toastmasters on the web.